and welcome to Jacob V Weekly. Guys, it's been a minute, and I want to do some math for everyone in the audience before we get started. We had like 6 hours of content built up, so technically, if you're going by the hours per week, we're ahead. So just wear that in your heart and on your spirit, and I'm joined by some very special guests for the launch of the next season of Jacob V Weekly. It's Pride Month. It's 666. We started this conversation an hour ago at 6 p.m., but we all have trauma and ADHD, so we're late. But it's cool. We're nice and primed for the airwaves, sister. I'm here with my best friends in the whole wide world, Lucius and Tito. Just the jammy jam. Tim is here in studio. Lucius is still in New Hampshire for the time being. And we wanted to come together to celebrate Pride and to just talk about the hoodies that we're all going to pre-order. I'm working on the hoodies, guys. I need you to leave me alone on the hoodies. So we share a lot in common, the three of us. We were all at my wedding, in my wedding. We're all on the Pride crowd spectrum, and we've all here we are. So who wants to start? My thing is, I'm so hungry.
Why do you always eat when I'm on with you? Do you do this to all your guests?
I'm finally getting a minute to sit down.
What are you eating?
I have Ruffles and hummus.
Oh my God.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
It's so distracting. My ADHD is going bananas.
It's actually a Kalamata olive tapenade hummus from Boar's Head.
Oh wow.
Only the best.
Oh, that's good. I love Boar's Head. They're so good.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, there's Tim. Hi, Tim. I can see you now.
Oh yeah. So Tim is here behind me. I was just living the dream. Now,
oh crap.
What?
Nothing.
What could it possibly be?
Nothing. I just am watching us live.
How do I look?
You look great.
The okay?
Lighting for you is significantly. It's exactly what I wish I had.
Great. Yeah, I mean, I only have one of these. That's my bad.
Yeah. Well, I told you from the minute I saw the glow light that I wanted.
Lou's not even trying over there. You're just fluorescent, full volume. Do you have an SPF in your daily moisturizer?
I do, actually.
Your skin does look great.
I'm just thinking I need to add an SPF. I was getting some unsolicited sun the other day, and I just felt like I needed to add a little. What is your skincare, your daily skincare vibe?
Mine is, start off with a moisturizer. No. Let me take that back. Start off with a cleanser, and then I spritz.
Is this in the morning or in the evening?
Both.
Wow.
2 times a day.
Wow.
So
same process twice a day?
Yeah, but I literally have it on my calendar behind me to look into other steps, like adding like retinol or something.
Okay, so walk me through the process.
Okay, so just a nice gentle cleanser because I have a combination style face where it's like mix of like dry and oily. And then after that, I will use a spritz, which is it's like a toner. I don't even know what is in it, some type of water. Sometimes you can use like witch hazel or something. And I spritz it. I do like a whole gay thing.
Is it
like
the micellar water?
I have no idea. Honestly. I'm sorry, I wasn't prepared for this. And but it's by I'm not even gonna try and remember what what the brand is.
So
but anyway,
so there is an SPF. Yeah, I think I got to add an SPF to my daily.
Absolutely.
Do you have a skincare process?
I just drink a lot of water, and when I don't drink water, I drink Diet Coke.
Have you switched to the alkaline water yet?
No, I just drink tap water.
No, but I hear the alkaline water, like from glaciers, is supposed to be good for your skin.
Is it good for my skin, but horrible for the environment?
The glaciers are already melting.
Well, I mean, we got to stop that.
But I don't think you refreeze one.
Oh.
You just got to slow them from melting.
No, I just drink tap water from Afton.
Afton Tap.
Yeah.
But what if we sold it like that? What if we just bottled it in your kitchen and sold it as
Just
for your skin? All you need is that Afton
spring
Tap.
water. Spring cool waters from Afton.
It just,
I want you to lean your head back and to imagine a waterfall.
Oh, I thought he was telling me to get out of his way.
No, you can also lean your head back, but that's fine.
Go ahead and just do this with me. Just
waterfall.
Envision a waterfall, and it's
in
just
Afton.
so wet.
Oh, so wet. Tim, I think that'd be great for your ASMR journey that you're going to go on.
But I kind of want to make sure when I'm doing meditations that I say in the middle of it, like, I'm just kidding. So, like, I want you to imagine there is a box in front of you. I'm just kidding. Just breathe. And then end it.
Dude, that'd be so funny to just.
I'm just kidding. You need to see a therapist and probably get on some medication.
Just kidding. This doesn't work. But anyway,
you paid $12.99 for this app, but all I'm going to tell you at the end of it is that you probably should just seek out therapy and request Xanax.
Yeah, I do think that meditation works, but it just seems like so hilarious, just like mess with somebody's
meditation, just right in the middle of it, just like maybe just like a sound card of like a fart or something.
Oh my god. Or just like all of a sudden in the middle of it, you hear a can of Diet Coke being opened.
Yeah.
I do this weird OCD thing where I like have to save the ice while I'm drinking. I'm doing it right now. I'm drinking all these different drinks, and like so then I'll combine things that have ice in them so the ice lasts longer. So that all just happened.
Yeah.
Solve that for me. Oh my! I guess we should get in so you guys are just all over the place. Now, let's kind of set the tone. Let's kind of talk about some ideas I was having about what I wanted to talk about with my two best friends here. We haven't all been together since my wedding in 2019, which was long before we started the podcast. But some of the issues that we sort of talk about a lot. Lou, you've been on the podcast once before. We covered some of this, and then Tim, we've talked about this, just in conversation, but just the journey that we've experienced in the United States, I guess, over the last 20 or 30 years, as both members of the alphabet people and allies of their such. So I don't know. I mean, one thing I've talked a lot about on this show before, this is our big Pride stream, right? This is our big Pride Month kind of episode of the show to kind of kick off summer and be back in the saddle. And Lou was saying earlier, I invited the two gayest people I know. So we'll lead with that foot. And we've talked a lot about just even since 2012, how crazy the shift has been, and where these issues are so much more non-issues and much more just something we're trying to adapt and trying to include in our everyday life, right? So I think we would all share the sentiment, for example, like I've said on the show before, that if we were all children now, we probably would have ended up being a lot gayer than
I probably would be one of the most obnoxious people.
Like, you know how bad it was? Like, if there was never, imagine if you never had any sort of, and we'll talk about these in more detail, but any sort of a cultural pressure to suppress any of those inclinations. I mean, sweet Jesus.
Well, hold on. Am I a child, but I still have the same parents? Because if that's the case, I would be the same. I'd be either.
Well, I'm just wondering if, and that's a good thing, too, to talk about how much of it is environment, how much of it is just in the home.
Because what I'm saying is that if I had parents that were more accepting, I would be a fully transitioned man named Jason right now. Probably fishing off a dock or something.
She'd be fishing off a dock. I think she's going to say she was some kind of a full-blown something.
Just playing.
I'd be a fully transitioned man.
Oh, okay.
Named
she'd
Jason.
be like an old man.
Cool.
You'd be like an old Midwestern man who's kind of hunched over. You have like a plaid shirt, and you're just fishing, and you're so old.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why would you be significantly older than you are now?
Because that's how masculine she would
that's
be.
That's what Jacob said. I did not put that in there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, I mean, but I wouldn't have all that angst and all of that, like, I need to listen to all punk type of vibe. I mean, I don't know. I mean, but that's
like,
that's
do you
just
feel
where
like you gravitated toward things specifically because of your identity, and like you gravitated toward them because you wanted to be projected as fitting in with that perhaps alphabet letter? Or like, do you think that you would be like, if we were in an alternate universe, you're like a fully transitioned man and like listening to pop music because you love it and not forcing yourself to like
would you
punk?
be listening to Huey Lewis in the News?
Dude, I'm not that old.
Would you be?
Would you be listening to like Chris
You'd be
Stapleton?
winding up your Victrola.
I don't know why he's the person.
Put on,
like I know. Okay, so I know that I said that I would be like somebody fishing off the dock, but that is. I'd like to think that I still have the same music taste that I do right now. I would just be a fully transitioned man. So
you would be chopping wood so much more than you have been.
I would have built so many decks. I would have laid so many concrete pads.
Hey, like, you know what?
You would have an entire adult recreational softball league named after you.
Yeah.
Like, I guess I would just be my brother. I would have like 3 kids and a wife. Like,
and you'd just be tearing her up. It would just be, never mind.
Oh my God.
Let's wait. It's only 12 minutes in.
Yeah.
Tim, what about you? I mean, how do you feel that your environment or your cultural kind of background in the context of the life that you've lived already, kind of, what's the word? Inhibited any of your impulses that way?
Well, I don't know. Like, that's a really hard question because I don't know if my environment. I think that my environment had a big role in obviously how long it took for me to accept who I am and then also like come out to my friends and family about it. But like, I was lucky. I know how fortunate I am to have a family, who has been accepting and embraced me. And like, even if it's that sort of like, we don't really care. But it's more so like at this point in my life, they do care a lot about my identity. And that I think is really meaningful. I think that we kind of, as a, like, if I'm just speaking from my own like family, I think that we've definitely grown and progressed through the time. And so like growing up in a religious household, it wasn't like something that was like a lot of people say shoved down my throat. Because it was just like, that's how it was. Like nice. I don't know. It was just, I guess, sort of like in our family DNA throughout generations to be religious in such a way, but not like zealots. I think that my family, I was raised to be accepting and, but like, I do recognize that like, if it were more accepting and more embracing, then I think like spending 20 years, maybe not fully 20 years, but probably since the age of like 15 or 16 being terrified and like telling myself like, no one can know, and like really trying to maneuver through the world, just assuming like I can get away with never talking about it. Obviously that did not work out.
Well, yeah. And I don't know that any of that's actually my fault, but we were kind of talking about this earlier, that I always just kind of assumed I knew, about your like identity kind of more so than I knew whether or not you were communicating to other people with it. Because early in our friendship, I kind of like put you on the spot in conversation between you and me and our friend Kat.
Yeah, I mean, but I don't really remember that, which is so interesting because you remember it so well. And I remember like when we were hanging out, but I don't remember feeling uncomfortable with that because I know that question had been brought up and I think I was just like, no. And then it was probably like a month or two later when I said something to Kat in passing where she was like, oh my God, like you are or whatever. And obviously she knew. It took like a big moment for me to, because the school we were going to, of course, like you could assume I know it's terrible to say, but like you would assume when someone like me is, behaving a certain way, speaks a certain way, has
mostly just that
a limp wrist.
That wrist is limp.
It's
girl.
limp. It's pretty limp.
That thing hanging.
Yeah, and I don't mind it. In fact, I like it. But it was actually around that exact same time when you're remembering that I had made some of my first friends in college ever. Like, and that was 2 years of going to the school. I didn't have any friends besides like my high school friends, and I loved them dearly. But I definitely wanted to like find my people. And you guys, I felt, were my people. And at that point, it was, friendships with like my friend Katie and her friends where I just let them assume. And so it might have been after you had asked me where when I just let them assume, I was like, I should just let people just assume who I am. And then I'll probably be more comfortable around them. And it worked.
Yeah.
I don't know if that made sense.
No, that's great. So, and the conversation me and Tim were referring to is just we were talking about somebody we went to school with, and one of us had just said something about her being attractive, and then I was just like, Tim, do you like girls? And then his response was,
No, that's when you outed him.
Well, it was just me and him and Kat. We were drinking this wild
It
berry
was horrible
beer. Like it was like
God.
it was like some kind of a beer with blueberry
Yeah.
wine in it. It was awful.
I can't believe you remember the name.
Wild Blue, I think is what it was called.
Something.
Yeah, and that's why I think it was like like in Looney Tunes where they drink something gross and they turn green. Like it put me back online.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh my
and
God.
then and Tim's response was, I don't talk about that.
Oh, is that how I responded?
That's what you said.
Oh,
You also had
interesting.
like a swoopy bang.
I did. A sweater. I remember the sweater I was wearing.
Swoopy bangs.
And
We have a picture from that evening.
we walked into the UC or whatever. They were doing a lot. Like they were playing. Oh man, Nightmare Before Christmas. Do you remember that? And we went in and I started singing along, like as if that didn't answer your question.
Jake, do you have an Instagram for this podcast?
Yeah, Jacob V Weekly on Instagram.
Yeah.
JACOBVI.
We should put up swoopy bang pictures of Tim and myself like in our like closeted gay days.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Send me those. I'll put them in a layout and I'll put them up there.
Send me a text
Okay,
so I know what I'm
I
sending
have a
you.
picture of me from that era, but I never had swoopy bangs. These bangs don't swoop.
My
These bangs don't swoop,
hair,
but they do
me
curl.
losing my hair is like the
Yeah.
worst feeling because I loved my hair. I loved it so much.
I like that hat though.
Thank you. I got it at Target, I think, a couple of years ago.
Really? My head's
Yeah.
too big for anything at Target. Are you wearing
Actually,
overalls?
Yeah, I was going to ask, are you wearing overalls?
I am wearing overalls. They're actually shorts too. They're like
Overshorts.
overalls.
Wow.
You're like a member of the fucking Lollipop Guild.
I'll sing you a song, baby.
That's exactly how they dressed. They had like overalls,
Yeah, and yeah.
overall shorts, like children.
And they looked angry.
small, middle European children.
Well, a house from fucking Kansas landed in their land, so I would be angry too.
I don't know. I mean,
You killed
like
the
they
witch.
killed the worst witch. Well, she wasn't the worst, but the one that was
wasn't the worst?
the one that was terrorizing them all.
Yeah.
There are worse witches.
Well, the Wicked Witch of the West, she's worse than the other one was. That's the first line. That's the
But
line
who's
about
the
it.
other one?
The Wicked Witch of the East. And there's your house, and there you are. And that's all that's left of the Wicked Witch of the East.
Oh, but she was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyone going
Lives
to comment on the
Glenda.
fact that I just quoted?
No, we knew. This isn't what I'm saying.
No.
This
you're-
is natural.
This
This
is
is
exactly
natural.
what I wanted to talk about. You do this thing where you act like anything about your identity is surprising to
Well,
anyone else.
I mean,
It's
well,
not-
yeah, that's
I-
really
I
interesting.
expected
to say
that.
that.
I
Isn't
actually
it
felt
surprising
bad.
I just quoted?
I don't think that I was asking for surprise. I was asking for you to be like, wow, that was very
Oh,
cool of you.
No, I was impressed.
Thank you. That's all I wanted.
I was impressed. No, oh, yeah.
Validation.
I'm sorry.
Just a
Yeah,
little
yeah,
I'm
bit.
because
really,
it
really
took me
sorry.
there. You know why I was impressed is because it was so effective. It took me right there to that scene.
Right. I don't need,
Hey.
the validation of saying like, that's surprising that you're able, that you like Wizard of Oz. I don't give a shit what you think about that.
No, I mean, but I had a good time. listening to you be was she the one from the West? The Eastern one was dead now?
Yeah, the Wicked Witch of the East is the one that the house fell
I just
down
get 'em
on.
mixed up.
And then Glinda is the Good Witch of the North. But I don't know who's in the South. Big Frida.
Dude, have you seen it? Have you heard her new Judas track?
Did the whole song get released? Because I only heard a snapshot of it on
No, it's on Spotify.
Yeah.
the whole song.
What did you hear it on TikTok? Or
Crud.
something?
I heard
They
just
don't release parts of songs on Spotify.
I heard it on Instagram. I can't remember who shared it. Probably Gaga shared it. But did you hear
Yeah.
Orville Peck's Born This Way?
No, I
Yes.
didn't see that she released anymore, but I'm excited for that because I saw.
Well, I think he
Jackson.
released it. I think it was released on his
Oh,
on his Spotify. Yeah. It's great.
Shit.
It's really great.
Yeah.
I'm adding
You know,
both of those songs to Jacob V's favorite songs on Spotify for June of 2021. Hit it up. Go ahead,
hit
you
it
were saying.
up. So Tim, do you remember at Jake's wedding when we all secretly planned to do some sort of like pose or Vogue at the top of the stage?
Yeah.
And we walked out, and only you and I did it, and
Yeah.
we planned it with like all of Jake's side.
Yeah.
Yeah, and none of them did it.
No,
No, and I
Kat
had-
did it.
Do you know how long? Do you know how
No,
long
but
I worked on
but
that
I had
idea?
to start it. But
You
I had
definitely
to start it. You were like, I think it was either you or Kat saying like, if you don't fucking pose, I will kill you.
I think it was probably Kat because she's like that.
Yeah.
But I think she was the last one on the stage, right? Because she was, I think, after me, but you were before me, and it was just us last
Yeah.
three, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
No, remember when I walked in with the fan?
Oh God, that was so beautiful.
The
was
pictures
so good.
from his wedding, from your wedding, Jake, are great.
Thank you so much.
There's one that I
was-
had actually on my profile for Scruff for a while.
Yeah. What is that?
Dating app.
Guys, I don't know anything about all these dating apps. You're naming dating apps I've never heard of.
They're dumb.
Yeah, they're
Dating
all
apps are dumb.
They are.
Yeah.
They're just, it's a
Wait,
waste
so
of
what's the
time.
deal? Like, why are there so many different ones?
Because I think it's supposed to attract like certain people to certain ones. Like there's her, which is mostly, like
Robots.
cis, trans, female presenting non-binary people go to her, and then so you're going to get that, and then like Tammy is for like everybody as long as you're not straight.
How do you spell that one?
TAIMI.
I have
And-
never heard of that.
Yeah.
And so what's
That's
and that
'cause
one's all that one's about just anything other than
Straight people.
yeah.
But they make their way in anyway.
They sneak in.
Those
Tell me about
secret
that.
straights.
Tell me about that. So, because we've talked about super straights for a minute on this show, and I want to revisit that in a second. But tell me about: are you saying that people that live as heteronormative cisgendered people will sneak into a otherwise dating app in order to play out some kind of a fantasy?
100%.
Oh
Yes.
yeah,
So,
absolutely.
how do you identify those people?
They have something kind of
They have an
ignorant on their
energy.
what?
I was gonna say something more ethereal, like they have energy.
You can
No,
feel that
I think
energy
like
about
I
them.
can usually tell if it's like just a torso, and then they have like a whole list of things that they don't want to mess around with. So like
Yeah.
Kim Chi's song "Fat Feminasian." Like
Sorry.
you remember Kim Chi, the drag queen, had that song
Fat
"Fat
Feminasian.
Feminasian,"
Oh yeah.
and I mean that whole song was like embracing the things that were oftentimes like written into these profiles, saying like no fats, no femmes, like. And so I usually think that, I mean, I don't think that that's always automatically like a straight person just
That's what
jumping
we've
on.
talked about
but-
before. We've talked about the specifically. I think the conversation we had on the show was about the racism in dating apps.
Oh yeah,
Tell me about that a little
rampant.
bit.
I don't know anything about that, but I'm.
No, but do you see it ever?
I think so. Yeah. Oh, totally. Like when.
That's what I'm asking about, because I haven't been in a dating app since I've been with my wife.
Yeah.
It's been years.
No, I mean
yeah,
people
I
post.
mean, like,
Go ahead.
go ahead, Tim.
Oh well, I
no,
mean
no,
like
no,
they'll
you
just.
first, baby.
Oh, you're.
Yeah. Here, let me produce the goddamn show. Tim, go ahead.
Well, just you can see on profiles like they say, like no blacks or no Asians.
Blacks.
Yeah, for sure.
Woof.
Not even capitalized, which is so rude.
Woof. They lowercase and blacks.
I mean, when you're out in when you're in rural Missouri,
there goes
that's what you would
Lion's
see.
Guys, this episode is brought to you by Music Around in St. Charles because Lion's Choice just pulled the plug.
What?
No, they didn't.
No, I'm just joking. I'm just because, I try not to say
I have a
blacks.
confession though. I'm gonna come out. I like Arby's. Like if I'm gonna get roast beef, I'll go to Arby's first.
No
Lion's
way.
Choice tweeted a meme about this the other day about seeing people walk into the Arby's on Chippewa from the Lion's Choice that's next door.
Is it because the Lion's Choice across the street is so busy that people have to resort to going to
People
Arby's?
be like, you know what? I don't want beef that bad.
I will say that recently I've been more impressed with Lion's Choice's sandwiches because they're not as soggy.
Okay, Lion's Choice is back. So you were saying people will say things specifically like no blacks in dating apps.
Right, you've seen that, right, Lou?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, actually, no, I honestly haven't. I'm not even gonna. But that doesn't mean
Absolutely.
that it's not there.
Well, actually, nah.
Well, it doesn't. God, what do I see? Yeah, because are you talking about Scruff though, Tim? Because I feel like
No, actually,
gay men-
Scruff is very different. I'm kind of more so talking about like Grindr, Tinder is, I think.
those are like
usually-
very aggressive apps though. Like Grindr is an aggressive app, and
Yeah.
I feel like that's where that's tolerated.
Yeah, no, totally. Scruff is a lot different because I think like Scruff and Growler are, you just like, kind of like create your profile based on, and I've had this conversation with several people before about how there's like this unfair disadvantage to women, like queer women, because there are so many apps out there for like niche or like specific gay typed people, which is
Yeah, dude,
horrible to say, but I mean, all those
That's
like
why
labels.
Her does so well.
Yeah.
Because it's the only one out there, and they do it. I mean, they do it well. It's just like, but it's showered with like number one, feminine focused. I don't even know their slogan, but they're the top out there. And you know what? I did see one on there that was this one person said, no. If you're not vegetarian, vegan, or pescatarian, we will not work out. So she definitely wanted, if you're a beef eater, get the fuck off my profile.
What if that's your job if you're a beef eater in like at the Tower of London? Do you know what that is? That's like the title of the guys who like I think give tours to the Tower of London. Someone can fact check me on that. But
A beef eater?
yeah, that's actually the title of the guy.
That's why they named the gin.
Shut
that.
up.
Yeah. What were you?
So
Her-
anyway, so that's
yeah.
that's the only time that I've seen it, because with her, it's I don't know, it's just very calm and like,
Yeah.
Here's what I'm doing and here's what I want. Like I want like adventure, or I want friends, or something casual, or I get a lot of what I do see on there is I just experimenting. This is going to be like my first like, girl on girl experience, and I know that that's fake.
Oh, that's interesting. Actually, really interesting.
Yeah, because how are you even going to find out about a fucking app?
It's what that is is butch bait. It's fucking butch bait.
What does that mean?
They want to attract an aggressive butch type.
Yeah.
Butch
them
bait.
butches love
I'm changing
turning-
the name of the episode to Butch
I've
Bait.
never heard that term. That's so interesting.
I just made it up, honestly.
Did you? I love
literally
it.
just made it up.
Oh,
Yeah.
hashtag
Coin that. Coin it.
I just saw the hoodie. The Butch Bait
Butch
hoodie.
Bait.
Oh my God, I would so wear a shirt that said Butch Bait.
I would too, actually.
Yeah.
I would really
oh
like
my
that.
God, guys, we've done it.
I love that. I'm so glad I was here for that.
Butch Bait. Okay, so
Yes.
you're saying God, this is so interesting. I knew we'd find something. I should have wake you fuckers up. Jesus. So what is Scruff about, Tim?
Well, I mean, it sounds a lot like her. When I first got it, I thought it was like mostly gay bear types who, like
That's what it sounds like.
yeah, but now it's pretty much everybody, and it's become, I think, basically a grinder.
Now, Lindsay, you described Grindr as aggressive. Describe how you gauge the aggression of different dating apps.
Well, it's
and
about
what we're referring to is the culture of the users of the app, right?
It's the immediacy.
Yeah.
It's the, where I'm standing, 33 feet away from you. Come here and suck my fucking cock.
Whoa.
Relax.
No, we're 30 minutes in.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, that's my interpretation of Grindr.
It's like that everywhere. It's like that at Disney World. It's like that.
So that's interesting you bring up Disney World because I've never been there, but it has nothing to do with that. But when I get on, I'm like, I hardly would get on these apps because it just, I don't deserve that in my mental health to feel rejected by nothing. And so but like what I really liked doing was when I travel, because I travel a lot, like specifically road trips, I have gone from like Cincinnati all the way to St. Louis, just back and forth between Grindr and Growler just to see like who's around, like who might be in their cars nearby.
Are you serious?
I love it. Yeah, it's so fun.
Do you ever like?
But like that's where you see
tell a story, but
what? I don't have any cool stories at all about any of that, but that's where I see like the most problematic is when you get into like really rural parts of the country, like, flyover land, which is all of the state of Missouri. There's like no qualms about being rude and ignorant about the different types of people you might see on these apps.
Like it's just free reign.
Yeah.
Like isms.
I'm seeing a butch bait tank top on Amazon.
Oh no!
But I don't know if it's in stock, and I don't know if that matters. So hold the line.
But that means that we got to find out if somebody's coining that or trademarked it.
Because that's what I'm saying. Because it's not like it's the brand of something. It's imported.
I've never heard that.
No, me neither.
Yeah, so I think you've got something.
I think we're on to something amazing. There. So
it's gonna be one of my
songs.
What
does that do? Okay, so here's part of my journey, right? Is that I've always been probably pansexual, but we didn't used to have that term, so
I still don't really understand what that means.
So I mean, it's sort of like
attracted to anything or anyone
without a preference.
Yeah,
it's just like biological sex is not any kind of a deal breaker.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I saw the flag for the first time today. It's like blue, pink, and yellow. I think
that sounds awful.
Yeah,
pink and yellow. What are we doing?
It looks like Easter.
So we didn't used to have that term, and so I very consciously in therapy at one point, made the decision that, certain types of relationships come from certain areas of your life or certain experiences, and some are thusly easier than others, right? And especially at the time when I was in college, I was really only, as far as men were concerned, I was really only attracting a very specific demographic that was a little intimidating for me. So because of some of that aggressive kind of communication you're talking about. So it's just not something I ever really pursued. And being that it's not like I preferred one thing over another, it's not anything that's a threat to, my relationship with my wife, certainly. So it's always been because of that, I've always thought about are there toxic elements of the LGBT community that are maybe not anyone's fault, but it makes dating therein more complicated?
Well, I think because we're dealing with two differences here. Like toxic behavior comes from can come from learned behaviors, whereas like being a homosexual of whatever form isn't necessarily learned behavior.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
Like being gay isn't what's toxic.
No,
right? The toxicity seems. But the behavior in some of these apps sounds really toxic.
Totally. I think
there are obviously there are like racist, sexist, members of the queer community.
Like transphobic, I think is actually still
that's
a
huge.
problem.
Yeah. Feeling like you're going to be like ostracized from your own like tiny community,
Right.
and then have to go into a tinier community.
And this is something that's
extremely
always
scary.
been really interesting to me is this sort of barriers that are drawn amongst, you know what I mean, people that would be all together at, for example, a Pride event if we were having one, right? I mean, it's not necessarily like all the different members of the LGBTQ community include each other in everything. Gay men are really guilty of this. Gay men are really guilty of being exclusatory to other groups that don't fit into their thing, which is oftentimes even groups of other gay men.
I
right?
totally think that, and I also
Like-
would agree that they're
Like,
also
how often do gay men seem to exclude lesbian women from their just culturally?
You like bears,
Parties.
like JJ's.
Yeah. Oh yeah, like JJ's, they won't even let you in.
Oh,
Yeah.
is that true? I've never
JJ's
been
like
there.
won't let women in that aren't like,
I mean, they'll let them in, but you'll get fucking stared at the whole time.
it's goofy. I mean, and
Yeah.
not subtle. It's the subtlety is what I'm saying.
Well,
It's
but
one
that
thing-
that is, I don't know. That's it. It's its own community too, like leather and bears and stuff. So I don't want to like hate that too much, but also
Well,
it's more
and it's
about
not
letting
even-
other people celebrate with you. In a sense,
It's not even that I'm
you know?
saying that any of that stuff is intrinsically bad, but I'm just curious as to, is it easier to and I think it's because of the being in the minority status in the mainstream culture is where this stuff comes from. I don't think gay people are more toxic than anyone else, but I think that if you're already a minority class, if the mainstream culture is trying to force everyone to be one certain type of person, then you kind of get left with less of the infrastructure, less role models of how to be. How many role models in popular culture do we have of healthy gay relationships? You know what I mean?
So I have a couple of points on that, but going back,
Go for it, because I'm gonna go pee while you're talking to Lou here.
Okay, there's a cat rubbing against me. It's kind of fun.
Okay, I'll tell him to stop.
No, it's all right. He's fine. So I think that asking about any toxicity within the LGBT community, I think it comes from a lot of like learned behaviors associated with heteronormative expectations.
Yeah.
So
like
when
sorry, I
Jake
didn't
was
mean to cut you off.
You're fine, but when Jake was talking about like the types of guys that would hit on him, I find that interesting because I found that I never attracted the type of person that I was attracted to, because I think there's like this assumption that if you're a certain size and you have a certain amount of body hair, that you're like the more aggressive, more dominant, more perhaps masculine person. And I
Yeah.
think that the toxicity comes from like still, even within the LGBT community, a lack of understanding or even perhaps acknowledgement of the binary or the non-binary view of gender. And so I think that, and then to a point about gay men being exclusionary, I totally get that, but it also could come from me maybe not putting myself out there for reasons, but
I don't know. You hear stories about them being very, catty and
yeah, I
closed
don't even
off
know
and
if
stuff.
like it's, yeah, I think that unless you're a part of the crew, I think for some reason I feel St. Louis is very, very close-minded, the community.
yeah.
And because like I've never had more fun just kind of like exploring gay neighborhoods in other cities because it's way more open. It's way more you are who you are because of who you are, and then
Yeah.
like one last point though about like places like JJ's, gay bars are not fun anymore. Like I can't stand going to Attitudes and Just John's and even sometimes Rehab because it's like it doesn't feel like you're in a gay bar. It feels like you're there for a drag show,
Doesn't
but
feel like-
the primary groups of people are girls on their 21st birthdays or their bachelorette parties. And so like I remember when Novak's was considered like a lesbian bar. Do you remember Novak's?
Yeah, we used to go all the time.
Yeah, it was a great
Yeah.
place. But even then, like at the time, I don't think was as, you know, it wasn't what it I think was wanting to be. You know, I think it was. So I can
don't
kind
know.
of
It
get
felt
why
like a pretty
JJ's would
butch
be exclusive.
sports bar.
What?
Yeah, it was a
I
pretty.
said it felt like a
environment.
pretty big
Totally.
butch sports
Yeah.
bar.
Because like the
But
whole
you're talking about the crowd, Tim.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I don't know who I was watching a documentary about online dating actually on Netflix, or maybe it was HBO Max. I don't know. Katie recommended it, but like
It could be Disney Plus. Is it
Yeah.
on Peacock?
I don't know. It's on Paramount Plus. But there was someone talked about the fact that like in the gay community, you don't even have to cruise anymore. And that like cruising was a part of like a whole culture of gay and gay people in large cities, you know, and so like apps have made it so that it's way easier for men to access each other, but like has taken sort of some of the fun out of having to meet or finding ways to meet that aren't dangerous. I don't know.
So you're saying I can't walk into a truck stop and find a nice little glory hole anymore?
You'll
I
find
mean, you
'em.
probably could, but I don't think you'd fit.
Ugh.
That was amazing.
So
Oh shit. Oh, okay. So I do want to make one point about toxicity. Yes, that's specific to the LGBTQ community. Is that lesbian or like feminine presenting partners abuse gets taken less seriously?
Like if
it's
like if the abusing party is the more feminine of the two, it gets taken less seriously.
yeah, or if you're like if you're both there, if you're both, you know, if you're at a court case for a restraining order, and both of you are cisgendered women talking about your relationship to a judge in Missouri, they don't take it seriously.
oh,
They treat it like, okay, this is just like a cat fight.
Mhm.
This is just
Wow.
like a disagreement and stuff. So it takes
Yeah.
multiple times to go through that system to get anything done. So I think that's something that plagues the community.
Yeah, and I had a friend who was a gay guy who I guess he's still around. I just don't I don't keep up with him much. But his thing always was that his parents were always very supportive ideologically and whatnot of whoever he felt like he needed to be or whatever. But that they just didn't. They had like this microaggression type thing where they were just so nonchalant about any of his problems because they felt like, oh, he's a gay man, so
Oh,
his
wow.
life is less complicated than people that are going to have a traditional family and a traditional career, and you know what I mean. And so
Which is such an oxymoron. Like it's obviously
yeah,
more
that's so
complicated.
interesting.
yeah. So his parents very much. Oh no, that's yeah. I mean that's we support you. We still love you. We're so glad that you feel like you could tell us. But then anytime he'd have a serious problem, be like, oh well, you know. I mean, they would never feel like it was as serious as, like, for example, his sister who had children, and it's just like, yeah, just that undermining like that. So happening at the
Yeah.
institutional level.
Do you think
also.
that's because he's gay, or do you think it's because he's a man?
Ooh.
Because
Because I feel like that's
here's the thing. I don't know that he had a sister. That sounded right when I said it, but I don't know that. I'm not confident enough in that information about somebody else's life that I could say, you know what, maybe it was like that.
I'm not confident if this man ever existed, but
I don't have any friends, guys. You guys are it. No, but I feel like he probably had a sister. That's probably how it came up. So that's probably correct. But he really felt like it was that he was gay, and not that he was the boy and his sister was the girl. But that's so interesting, especially coming from his mother. He was probably looking for that validation from his mother, and his mother probably identified more with her daughter who was having children. That's something she had done, and they have that. So that's also possible that it comes from that, and it's very wise of you to inquire such.
I think that also that for parents who, especially of like perhaps our parents' generation, to not like know how to navigate the problems that come up, you know, or even if they are like, were they like chalking it up like, oh, your problems are because you're gay, or like,
No. I
or
think it was that,
you
your
can
life
take
is
care of
easier.
yourself.
You guys just, I really felt like she was telling him, you guys just fucking go to brunch and shit. Like, you don't have like real
Like,
problems.
what's your problem? Like you're
what-
just designing houses.
Okay, that's nice, but you don't have like children that you're trying to raise and send
What's
to
your
school.
problem? All
Yeah.
you do is watch Wizard of Oz all day.
Yeah, all you people do is
All you people do.
yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Watch Wizard of Oz all day.
All you guys do is watch.
I mean,
Wizard of Oz.
isn't that like rule number 1?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Watch Wizard of Oz.
It's-
And that's
it's
why
like
I was
the,
so embarrassed to not know it.
There's a Key and
earlier.
Peele. There's a Key and Peele skit about they bring it's a black gay wedding, and so they bring in a consultant to talk to the family about how to behave, and the family has a lot of questions, and they say they keep asking things like, so who's going to wear the dress? And we're like, well, no one's going to wear a dress. We're both men. We're both going to wear suits. Oh, okay. And they write stuff down and like things like that. And it
That's
goes on and
funny.
on and on. But what I've really learned.
I
is
feel
that-
like, do you think that question is I wanted to ask Lou real quick that question has to be asked all the time.
Well, you know what? I just
like,
saw this
lesbian-
on Instagram the other day. The question of, so which one of you? It was a meme of 2 chopsticks, and it was a fork and a knife.
Which
where
one's the girl?
Were the other couple, and the fork and the knife were like, which one of you is the fork?
Yeah.
So,
Classic.
the question is, do you get that question? Do you get
Yeah.
get questions about? But this relates exactly to what I was just
It's-
about to say. That it's so crazy that it's something that we all obsess about other people so much.
Like you want to find the heteronormativity in my heterosexual or
Isn't it weird that we spend so
homosexual
much time,
relationship?
like worrying about, like, even at work or at school or wherever, we spend so much time worrying about who other people want to sleep with, or not even who they're sleeping
That's what I
with, but-
think. It's so
but who
weird.
they
Why is
want to
like-
sleep with.
Right. Like it's if somebody is kind of like responding to like, what do you think about that? They're like, love is love. Fuck whoever you want. Like I don't like it's such a sexual topic that I just kind of like want to move on from it. Like
Yeah.
That's my
I don't
thing.
want you-
I don't understand why everyone is so like. I don't ask totally normal straight people or whatever you want to call them. I don't ask them things like, "Oh, how do you like vaginas to look?"
Oh
like,
my God.
How
Right.
do you like big old sloppy tits, or do you like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't ask
how do you
people
fuck
that.
your wife? Like
You know what I mean?
don't.
Like, isn't it so weird that from
it's
such
so
a young
weird.
age, since I was like 9, people have been obsessed about, do you think you're gay? Do you think you might be gay? I'm like, I don't know what that means. And you're asking me if I'm attracted to other men and I want to touch their penises? That's what the question is? Like, isn't it weird
Yeah.
that we spend so much time where we have to know how the president feels about, before we elect a president, we have to know how he feels about what other people do in the privacy of their own homes?
Oh, that's a good point.
like, isn't that weird?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fucking weird.
Do you want to talk about something else?
Oh no, I'm
No, but I
no,
took that
I'm
as
just
you meant-
saying
it's-
like
it's such a weird thing that people will just ask. It's like, listen, I'm actually just coming to have dinner at your house with my partner, and how and why, who touches who where is really nobody's business. Isn't it weird?
Well, I think it's weird
Yeah.
that people still can't understand that like the way that you feel about another person is exactly how another person feels about another person when they're in love. So like, or in a relationship, or all of those aspects of being in a relationship are all the same. And not in terms of like the heteronormative expectations, but in terms of like how you show affection, or like what that
Yeah.
looks like, or
just like human feelings.
yeah, exactly. It's
Yeah,
like
it's like,
people
no,
have
they
a
all have
hard
feelings
time
that you have.
understanding that you could feel like a certain way about another person in the way that they feel about their specific person that they're in love with.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, so is so and so gay? Well, it's like, what does it matter?
maybe this is a good
Yeah.
exercise.
And there's so many like stereotypes within the queer community because there's not enough of us. I feel like there's not enough people to really like spread out like the spectrum of the stereotype, because you'll still run into a lot of the butch bait and the like the stone lesbians, and
The
you'll
what?
still be able to find.
I think she said
the
butch bait and stone lesbians. She cut out for a
stone
second.
lesbians.
What's a stone
Sorry.
lesbian?
Yeah, Tim may not know that
The
one.
stone lesbian is the cargo short truck driving. I'm gonna pick up my wife and go dig a hole. I don't know.
I'm gonna pick up my wife.
I'm gonna
pick up my wife and I'm gonna walk her across that threshold if I be
I'm gonna
damned.
pick up my wife.
Oh God. And so anyway, it's just about kind of what you were saying earlier, Tim, about the binary within the community itself, that we're still having enough courage to break that part of it and be able to represent ourselves truly, instead of what other people think that we should be, like yourself, being feeling like you come off, you are more feminine, but you feel like you're represented more masculine because of stereotypes.
Mhm.
So there's not enough representation of your type of being in order to break that stereotype. So that's why it's really important to continue like representation within our own community in order to get people out of their own closets. Like there's so many people like still in the closet about certain things.
Yeah, I think that it's similar to the way I think that a lot of gay people look at straight people, and specifically maybe straight people who are maybe more narrow-minded, and they look and think like, how do you not understand that everybody's on a spectrum? Like everybody is on some sort of their own, wave of what is gender and what is sexuality. But then like
It's
gay
too
people
hard.
what?
It's too
It's
hard
not
to
fun.
understand.
Right, but even I
Hard
think
to
like
process all that information.
I think even
too
within the
hard.
LGBT community, it's also similar in that like people within in the LGBT community also need to look inward and say like, oh, you also should acknowledge that you perhaps are on more of a fluid spectrum than you think.
That's a huge part
Yeah.
of it. Is people.
Yeah.
Some people are ill-equipped, or they feel ill-equipped to acknowledge their own spectraldom.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I am having my second coming out right now at 30 years old. Like I have to come out again.
That sucks.
It does suck. I don't want to come out again. I wish I could have just been myself from the beginning
Yeah.
Yeah.
until I got stripped away. And then I had to find it again. And now I'm back.
Do you
Well,
have
and that's the thing too, is like your identity evolves, not necessarily even as much because of who you are changing, because it's less about that. It's really more about how you feel comfortable interacting with the world around you in context. And like, I'd probably identify as pansexual now, but I have always identified as bisexual because we used to have that term,
Yeah.
even though that feels so limited and exclusatory. And so it's like, and so what you're saying is, I mean, you have to come out more completely, really, or in a new way.
Yeah, I have to like because I was only comfortable enough to identify as a lesbian.
Mm-hmm.
That was my like glass ceiling, if you will. And then once I realized that I still wasn't being my true self, and I was like subconsciously like suppressing all of those thoughts because it just didn't feel safe. Maybe, yeah, probably. And then now that I am like on my own and can afford all of my things, it feels safer to be myself because I don't have to worry about surviving.
Yeah, about being living on the street.
I think
Yeah.
for me, there's also like an added piece too as society progresses. And although like the alphabet has gotten so much longer, I don't necessarily know if I find it that much of a problem, because I think like having the language to not only be able to express it to other people, but having the language to sort of conceptualize it for yourself is also huge. Like, oh, okay, so like queer, I get that now. Like that word has changed so much over time. And
Queer, it just used to mean gay.
right, well, I thought queer originally was sort of like odd.
Queer
Right.
was a derogatory term.
No,
Also.
I don't think it originally was. I mean, like
I don't know. I don't know if it
was long
originally
used
was,
that
but
way.
It was
Yeah.
long used that way, yeah, but and then it's been adapted. You know what word I love? Fruit. I love fruit.
That's amazing.
I love
identify-
saying that's fruit all the time.
Oh, really? I'm gonna try
That's
that.
fruit.
Yeah, but it's like it has to be
That's
very
fruit.
cavalier.
How do we
like
feel about gay men using the C word?
I don't
Like in the drag context, it comes out all the time.
know. I don't know. I don't know how
I don't know. I think that maybe we should just not make it such a big deal.
Great.
Like-
Well, it's interesting because that word is okay. Like people always say, like people in
Is it weird
Australia
that I'm
and
sensitive to that word?
No, I don't. I think that it's very polarized as far as sensitivity to that word. I mean, I could be making an uneducated assumption here, but I feel like we're just giving the word too much power.
That's what I'm also saying that. That's also true.
Yeah.
Okay,
But,
good. So
you
I'm back
know,
to being fine with it. So we were talking about fruit.
when were you not okay with it? Was it for like
It's
before
really
that?
like when like a mixed race person uses the N word. It's always like you look
Oh.
at everyone else and you're like, are they allowed to say
is
that?
that okay?
And it's
Like,
like
I would-
when a cisgendered gay man uses the C word to refer to a drag performance or a styling, I just notice it because I just know that I wouldn't.
How would you describe a drag performance using that word?
I'm not gonna. I'll
charisma,
send you,
uniqueness, nerve, and talent.
Is that what you're talking about, Jake?
oh well, I've never used it as an acronym.
That's
Charisma, uniqueness, nerve, and talent. That's RuPaul's.
RuPaul's
thing.
thing.
No, but on
That's
drag-
what the RuPaul's Drag Race winner exudes is charisma.
I'm not comfortable
Yeah.
saying what the guy said, so I'm not going to say it. But
What were you watching?
I was watching Dragula
Yeah.
probably,
Uh,
which is an
yeah.
edgier show.
I don't know because I wonder where
So
we're gonna go
edgy.
with that word. Because did you ever watch Project Runway? And do you remember how Christian Siriano used to say that everything was tranny? There's music playing.
no, and yeah, there's like totally music happening.
Oh, sorry. It's there's music playing. I have that in there in case for a normal episode
playing
we try
us
to wrap
off.
it up
You're
about
playing
now,
us
but we're
off.
in the middle of some shit, so I'm just gonna let it roll.
I
just
have
muted it.
time, so
No, I'm not doing nothing. I was in the middle of a conversation,
Yeah.
but I'm glad you noticed that because I did not. So false stop. We're gonna keep rolling, sister. Encore. We're officially in the encore stage. This intermission is brought to you by. What were we talking about?
Oh, are we gonna lip sync for our lives?
Yeah, we should do. We're an
That'd
hour
be
in. So
fun.
the guy was saying. He said your tuck is cunt. Is what he kept saying.
Interesting. Is that a good thing?
Well, and no one. Everyone was like, "Oh, that's great."
Well, I mean, he's describing the private part.
Right. So this is what I'm saying though is that like, and they didn't bleep it or anything.
Where's
It
this
was
guy
on-
from?
It was on Netflix. I don't. It's just he was just some gay guy in a
Was
suit.
he English or was he
No, he was white.
American?
It was the English. No, he was white. No, he was.
Well, no, but he makes a good point because it's not a as like a powerful word in Australia.
Right.
Like-
no, or
or
England. It's no, that's or
England.
totally. But no, he was just an American gay guy. But I just it was not alarming to me. I wasn't offended. I was just like, I don't know if is that okay? Do people talk like that? But I guess none of us are drag performers, so we should ask one of them.
Well, I think that you bring up a really interesting topic, which is that, like, I do think that gay men and sometimes even drag queens are given the liberty to do some problematic things and say problematic things.
Right.
But then again, that's like, I feel has been over time. Like, I don't know if I brought this up.
It's coming to an end.
I
But
started
yeah,
to mention
I
this
totally
earlier,
see what
but
you mean.
On Project Runway, Christian Siriano used to say things were tranny all the time. Be like, that's tranny. That's so tranny. And
Yeah.
now, like, he would be canceled, you know? And I'm sure he's probably apologized for it, but that was also, I think, probably in 2007.
That's also true. That was a long time ago.
I can't tell if she's frozen or if she's thinking.
She's there.
I went into like an ADHD zone off. Like,
Where were you? You were on Rainbow
Where'd
Road
you
on Mario
go?
Kart Deluxe.
oh my god, I went into like like a total like, well, RuPaul also used to say tranny, and that was
Yeah, I remember
super...
it was Carmen Carrera who got, I think, well, I remember reading somewhere that I think Carmen Carrera was the one who kind of like threw a fit about the, ooh, girl, she got she-male, or you got she-male.
You got she-male.
And so
Oh,
that's only
yeah.
in like the first 3 seasons or 4 seasons.
Really?
I don't know. Because I also feel
RuPaul is also fracking.
RuPaul is fracking.
She's fracking. Yeah. So.
Okay, wait. I also feel like we have the power in the community to make that stuff still be funny, like to make fun of ourselves.
Yeah.
But you can only, I don't know. It's also like you can only make fun of yourself if like you're that person, maybe.
Yeah.
I agree.
And
it's sort of like,
this is the thing too. People like a binary. People like to say you can or you cannot. You know what I mean? People do not like to say, well, some people can. And it depends on if it's coming from a place of humor and compassion, and you can get away with stuff that, maybe you couldn't if it felt like you were simultaneously exploiting some privilege you have over somebody else. So that's an unsatisfying answer because we have to agree to take things on a case-by-case basis. If that dude said tranny on Project Runway now, that would not be cool.
Never. Hey, I need to go wash my eyes. The cat is sitting right next to me and my eyes are itchy. Is that okay?
I just wish I would have gotten you that medication.
Is it going to ruin everything? I can sit and suffer through it. I was just telling
I don't believe that it's going to help. But you're welcome to try. No, you're not gonna derail the thing.
No, I'm
if
right.
I have to help you with something, it's gonna derail.
You don't have to do anything.
Show.
No, I'm just gonna go like rinse my eyes.
Yeah, there's soap in there.
Okay.
Do not soap your eyeballs.
Hot water's on the left. I'm gonna turn his camera off in the meantime. Woo, God! So we are cooking. I have a whole episode of the show prepared for whenever I get to do one. But this has nothing to do with any of that. We were going to talk about headlines and Israel, but for Pride, I wanted to just talk about some of these specific issues. And I think you also bring up a good point in that my original question that took us down this path was about the toxicity in the LGBT community. And it's one of those things where that's like asking that if I were to ask a woman who lived in a trailer park, do you get tired of getting beat up all the time? Like, that would be rude because I'm assuming that because of who I am assuming she is culturally, because of where she lives, I'm assuming that she has a certain experience. And that's a problem. Yeah. And so it would be inappropriate to say that all gay men have really toxic dating lives. I think I just assume that because any flirting I did with the idea of dating any men that kind of pursued me earlier in my life where that happened, it doesn't happen much anymore. It's not that it doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen as much. Is that I felt like those situations were toxic and why I didn't pursue them. It was a whole lot of, hey, can I come over at 1 a.m? And like, I'm in my mom's house. No, you're not coming to my mom's house at 1. You will take me out on a proper date. And then, so that was sort of my experience. So I guess it's inappropriate.
But that just sounds like a fuckboy, though.
Yeah,
it just sounds like a fuckboy.
Well, that's the thing too. Is that's what I started thinking is, oh wait, this toxicity exists in all dating apps.
Yeah,
it's going to exist on a theologically specific dating app. It's going to exist.
What are you talking about?
I was just saying that maybe I should clarify that it's sort of microaggressive to say. So are gay dating apps toxic? Because that's just it's like saying it's like asking, you're assuming a lot about the whole thing. But I think what Lou was saying is that representation of more of what romance and intimacy looks like across the spectrum is kind of the solution, is to kind of dissolve the strict binary that mainstream culture has in their head, and with those positive examples of what dating looks like in every different situation. And that's another thing that's not satisfying, because it's the right answer probably, but it's really hard because it's not saying, you should just it's hard to say, oh, well, we're going to build an entire infrastructure of ideals around examples of healthy relationships in all of these different categories.
Well, and all of these though, these apps are all trying to make money. So like
that's the thing.
anything
Yeah,
that's
they
trying
want
to
be hot for a minute,
Right.
so they can cash in.
Well, and the thing that's going to sell is the thing that makes people feel the most insecure. So you're going to get on there and you're going to feel like you don't have enough or you're not getting enough, and so you're going to pay the money to have the the
premium access,
premium version, which isn't going to work any better for you. And so then, I don't think there's like any conspiracy here, but like all of the labeling thing, it's like everybody's constantly walking around with like a personal ad, and instead of getting
and
out.
mine says butch bait.
Yeah, mine does not. Mine says just butch. You can call me butch.
Mr. Bush.
Just to make it known, none of us are butch bait.
No, unfortunately.
Oh, come on. Like, I want to be.
That's
what do I have to do?
That's the thing is I feel like
do I not want to be?
Right.
I think it depends maybe on what butch, if we're talking about like male, like cis male butch or like cis female butch, but
I honestly I don't want it doesn't butch or not, I just want a nice person.
Boring. I want to get fucking ragdolled. You know what I'm saying?
Good for you.
Cam's over here like, I just want a companion. I want to be heels to Jesus. You know what I'm saying? I want to feel like the world is ending.
Oh my God.
And that's just emotionally.
You want to be taken to the day after tomorrow.
Yeah.
You want that
Yeah.
apocalyptic.
Yeah. I want Liam Neeson
event.
to kick the door and ask me if I'm okay.
You want to be raptured.
Ravaged. I want the police to show up and say, "Sir, are you consenting to this behavior?"
Oh my God.
And I want to say, "I think so."
Please don't take rape that seriously. Come on.
Are you okay? Are you okay?
I messed her up when I said I wanted to get ragdolled.
Yeah.
I know. I just totally
think about it. Think about think about not being weird about it at all. Think about just laying there and just getting decimated and just feeling like you were just safe and at home, but
that sounds terrible.
But just getting pounded.
That sounds really terrible.
Oh.
Are you like in a committed relationship with this person?
Yeah. Whatever you need. Whatever you need to
okay.
feel good about just surrendering to the bliss of just, you know what I mean?
Interesting.
Just being dominated by another human.
Can we move on?
Yeah, we're an hour in, so I usually wait until all my family gives up on the episode before I start really digging into the material. But
oh my God.
I know. I think we're reaching a good place. I think we're identifying that we're all slightly different in our experience with either being or presenting as butch bait.
Yes.
And that I'm not.
Yeah.
I'd like to be, but I think I'm a little big
For what?
to be butch bait.
No, I think that if just two pigtails,
I'll pick
with
it.
like the little beads would be.
Which little beads?
You know, like those like those.
Like you braid it,
Like the
you
hair
braid it, and then
ties?
you beat at the end.
hair
no
ties that have the
braids,
beads
just
on
like
it?
two pigtails, and then like those hair ties that have the beads on them.
Oh yeah, the two beads.
Yeah, or just yarn, like big thick yarn.
Big thick yarn, like a beer maid. Like an Oktoberfest German.
you would
beer
really
maid.
look like a rag doll.
I'd look like Raggedy Ann. The little seriously, put the makeup on me.
You said I want to get rag doll.
I wanna get-
Yeah.
Here's the thing.
Like you're gonna have to get bangs first, sir.
Nobody,
Oh my God.
When you're a big dude, when you're 6'1", 300 pounds, nobody just takes the reins and tosses you around like you're a rag doll.
Well, that's
gotta find
unfortunate.
And it's not
Everybody deserves
anyone.
to be
you know
rag
what?
dolled.
You
I'm
know,
just thinking in general, it's just not normally the dynamic. So it's just a nice fantasy to think about. It's
Jake,
just-
that is something going way back to what we were talking about an hour ago. Is something that I saw on an app where this guy literally was like, "I don't want an F a dump truck." Like that's where the sort of like heteronormative like boxing in of people. This is when you went to the restroom, which was like when you're of a certain size and you have a certain amount of body hair, like you're expected
You're right.
to be the more masculine, more dominant figure in perhaps a relationship, but that's what's bull crap about it. Bullshit. I don't know why I can't.
It's bull
It's
crap.
bull crap. It's just like it's just terrible.
I'm a princess too.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. That is
So
hilarious. You know
This
what?
is not what I
Jake,
thought we were going to talk about tonight, but this is fun.
you
what do
could
you
get
want
on
to
an
talk about? I thought this is exactly what I was hoping we'd drum up. I mean, not exactly, because I've written something.
Lou, what's your gay anthem?
my gay anthem. Oh my god, that's such a good question.
Hold on, I gotta look up the name of mine.
I'm gonna need you to go first because I can't.
Do you have an example, Tim?
Like, I mean, what is that song that just makes you feel your gayest self? That, you know, like obvious ones are like Vogue, Born This Way, I'm Every
I Will
Woman.
Survive.
I Will Survive. Yeah. Like, what's yours? What is that Kate Bush?
Hold on.
No, this is mine.
Let me Oh, you know what it is? It's fucking Dancing Queen.
What is it?
Dancing Queen.
Dancing Queen.
Dancing Queen
Yeah,
is a
that's
great
a good
one.
one.
That's
Yeah.
my Never Been to Me by Charlene from Priscilla, Queen of the Desert.
That is so gay. I don't even know what that is.
That's so good.
Yeah, it's a close second from that movie is Billy Don't Be a Hero, which my mom and I danced to at the wedding.
Oh, I love that.
Because she will get
so
her baton
cute.
routine.
We
going.
saw the batons were great.
A lot of good ones.
Yeah. That's amazing. You know what? My newest gay anthem right now is actually called Kill the Lights by Alex Newell. And that song will fucking change your life.
Kill the Lights.
I'm gonna put
Kill
that
the
also
Lights.
on Jacob V's favorite songs for June. This is like a podcast accompanying playlist I do every month.
Yeah, it's got to be the remix version though.
Which remix?
Is it with Nile Rodgers?
there's Yes, and DJ Cassidy, and then there's somebody else on there that sings really well.
Vinyl
that I
on
can't
HBO.
remember.
Oh, it's from Vinyl.
No, but I don't know if that's the remix one. Let me see what the artist is.
I saw the right remix. I think it.
Okay.
I think it, girl. It's on the playlist. Jesus.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's a good segue into kind of the question I want to talk about, because one thing I've really loved, and it's no secret that
Thanks for letting me take over, by the way. With
No,
that.
I love it. It's no secret that I love Johnny McGovern, and he was sort of one of the first podcasters that I sort of kept up with when I didn't know what podcasting really was back in the day, and they did a Pride episode of one of his shows that I follow on Patreon, and just sort of drawing attention to, I think in the 80s, we were sort of forced to internalize a lot of homophobia as a society because of the epidemic with AIDS and all of the ways that was used socially or in conversation or whatnot, and then reinforced by all the older sort of prejudices that were already there. And so one thing that is sort of new, and part of all these things that we're talking about, is this idea of Pride actually being a lifestyle thing, not just being an event or a time of year where you like get the rainbow Bud Light can, but you also actually think about the things that make you really excited to be a part of that greater alphabet community, right? I don't know if you can hear that. I have water going right here. Super loud.
I cannot hear that.
Good. That's good. So I wanted to just talk a bit about what Pride looks like for you guys now, just as an idea of your LGBTQ status being something that you are proud of and that you try to be at better terms with all the time.
I kind of use Pride as a way to stretch myself even more out of my comfort zone. And for like the next year, like I'm going to be this much more gay because you see all the support, you see all the attention and everything. And it just makes you feel not only proud to be a part of that community, but just more confident
And empowered.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I don't necessarily subscribe to all of like the rainbows and stuff. I mean, look at how I'm dressed.
Yeah, that's
because
true.
I just think
are you
that's
still
like,
wearing boxer briefs?
Yes, I am actually. Duluth.
No, I love a
100%,
boxer brief.
Oh, they're the
organic
best.
cotton.
I mean, a good cotton boxer brief. There's nothing better. I feel like I could tackle the world with just a fresh pair of boxer briefs on.
Oh, so good. So, the rainbow's a little too on the nose for me, but I'm really happy that it's there. And, it's corporations are taking over Pride, but that's a whole nother topic.
Well, right, because that's the thing. I wanted to talk about pride as a feeling and a belief structure and an ideology separate from sort of the corporate shill around the parade and the commercial and the
Sure.
cards and whatnot. Tim, what about? I mean, I know this is sort of a foray into exploring an outwardness with your identity that maybe you haven't been able to practice before. So I just wanted to get your vibe on that,
Okay.
brother.
Yeah, well,
Can I say brother? Is that a microaggression?
I don't know.
I'm just trying to be good.
I mean, you can call me Al.
I'll call you.
Did you like that?
You got me.
That was the unexpected one.
Boom.
So, yeah, I don't know. So, like, obviously, the whole Pride celebration, Pride Month thing. I've never been to a Pride festival. I've never been to a Pride parade.
What?
Yeah.
That's so funny because we're all sitting here talking about it's fuck the parade. It's so corporate. We don't give a fuck. Fuck them. And then now we're like, wait, now we gotta go. He's never been.
Right. Yeah. Well,
You
today
have to experience it at least
I
once
went
in order to
down-
not like it.
We went as kids actually all the time.
Did you? That's cool. I didn't know they existed before like 2000.
Oh, it was lit. So okay, so it's not something you participated in so much.
No. And well, today actually there was a Pride caravan. Did you know that it drove around the city? I was outside of Cherokee Street and watched it from the restaurant's patio, and it was just like vans driving up with balloons and cheering and stuff. But it was nice, and it was the first real Pride thing I've ever been to, which is not even a real thing because it was just a random group.
You
of
just
people.
witnessed it,
Yeah.
but it's as close as you've ever.
We
gotten.
planned to go, but to watch it, but it was like 15 minutes of waving to cars as they drove by.
Yeah.
Now, like, would I like to go to Pride? Yeah, I would. Actually, I take that back now that I've just thought of that. The first and only Pride thing I've ever done was actually my brother invited me to go to Pride night at the Cardinals game. And that meant so much to me. Like, I don't
Oh.
care about going to the Cardinals. And he knows that. He knows I don't know anything about sports or baseball. I try to avoid it. But it was cool because he was like, hey, this night is Pride night at the Cardinals game. Do you want to go? Am I going? And I said, yeah. And I went with him and my nephew, and it was really nice.
That sounds so nice. It just takes a little bit of acknowledgement, and we're not asking for a lot, just a little acceptance and love.
Well, and it's like, it's not a matter of, like, I would like to go to the Pride parade because I never felt like I could. I was always so worried about seeing students there. Like, that I
Oh.
would see people and then, like, words would get out and
Yeah.
now I'm excited. Like, I can't wait for September because I'm going to go and I'm going to have a really good time, and I can be whoever, like, I can be my most authentic self, which is like, still, I don't think very much of a loud and out there person unless I've like imbibed, but
Right.
or I'm dancing to really
You
good
don't
music.
have to be for sure.
Right.
Like,
Like, exactly. I don't have to do
You're your own
anything to
person.
prove anything to anybody.
Yeah.
But I would say that, like, for my own personal pride, when I first moved out, or no, I'm sorry. One summer I was like out. I was like on 3 different trips throughout the summer. So I was barely even home. And I went to this like summer institute in DC, and it was like the anniversary of Stonewall. And so I went to the museum at the newseum, like the one that's like all about media. I think it's closed, but they had an exhibit on Stonewall, and I had just done this like diversity institute in DC, and I felt so like refreshed and revived because I was talking to all of these educators across the country who were listening to my story and like engaging in these conversations, specifically like this stuff. And I was like, oh my God, like, this is who I am. And I actually really enjoy and love who I am. And so from that point forward, I jokingly said this to a friend of mine, but like was very serious that for a while I was only reading books about gay people. Like I read Gay New York. If you haven't read it, it's a great book about like sort of like the history of the gay community from like the 1920s onward. And sort of like where drag comes from even before the sort of ballroom scene in like you know, in New York. It's like deeper than that. But then I jokingly said that to a friend of mine because I was going to go to Savannah before COVID, but it didn't happen. And she was like, "Oh, you need to read A Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil." And I was like, "Oh, well, I'm only reading books about gay protagonists." And then it turns out that book is actually about a gay guy and like the Lady Chablis in it and everything. So anyway, my own personal pride, I think, came from like wanting to entrench myself in what I saw as gay culture that I also loved, as opposed to trying to like to force it onto me. It was more of like, yeah, I love these things. I love watching Drag Race. I'm not going to pretend I don't. I've watched Project Runway since I was like 16. I'm not going to pretend that that's not a thing. And not that like Project Runway is gay, but it is. And so like my own personal pride is like acknowledging that although being gay isn't my full identity, it is a major part of who I am. And that like the more I explore it, the happier I become.
Right. Yeah, 100%. And that's totally what I'm saying, that like a certain part of the community has like the courage or like the emotional, and I don't know, just like you can only go so far with what you have to work with and what your surroundings are.
And your starting place
but
is
there's
always
so much
different.
more to it.
Like people that pioneered something, you know, ahead of anybody our age, for example. I mean, they started in a very different place. We started in a very different place. This is kind of what we were talking about when the episode kind of started. We started in a very different place in our journeys and in the context of, you know, the world around us and what it was like.
Well, when we were growing up, do you remember when there were commercials for like saying that's so gay?
Yeah.
Did you ever see those?
Yeah. Do you remember when George Bush was running for president and his big thing was that they were going to keep marriage between a man and a woman?
No. I mean, I didn't pay attention to that, actually.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I wasn't seeking that information out. It's not like I read it on CNN the next day or something, but it was, it's just something. It was like I was watching a presidential debate or something. It may have been his second one for his second term. I was like, that's just such a weird thing that everyone's so obsessed with that. And then that kind of sets the tone for the environment you kind of think you're going to be walking into.
Right.
It makes you feel unwelcome. And I think that's what we're talking about is like, maybe we like Project Runway for reasons that have nothing to do with our sexual identities, but it's really nice to have positive, successful role models that are a member of a community that you feel like you might be a part of.
Totally. I love Tim Gunn. Like,
yeah. And I loved Michael Kors too. He's a little more problematic than Tim Gunn these days. But I think that's the big thing is we don't have those positive examples of it being okay to not be totally heteronormative and cisgendered and I aligned to the ideological kind of mainstream.
Yeah, it's huge. It's another topic of discussion as far as like media and entertainment goes. It's still a binary. It's still stereotypical, and you know, it's still something that we need to fight for. But you know, like with TikTok and social media and stuff, and the Generation Z and everything, they are even a step further with accepting different roles and different people early on, so that it feels like no big deal to them for most of them.
I agree, but I also feel like sorry to interrupt you, but like Gen Z, the experiences I've had a little bit is like not only like coming out the gates accepting, but also I see a lot of with Gen Z victim chic. Have you ever heard of that? Where it's like,
no.
Well, it's like great to be the victim of some sort of oppression, and so it's chic and in vogue. And then on top of that, like,
well, they're teenagers, so
yeah, well, yeah, totally. And then like the well, you know what worries me is that Gen Z is so progressive and liberal. I'm afraid of what they're going to be like when they're adults if they're going to swing the opposite direction.
like go straight Republican.
Yeah, like it does worry me.
Like if they decide, like,
I mean,
okay,
look at boomers.
This
like
is such an
boomers.
interesting idea. Is if you look at, hold that thought because I
Okay.
want to talk about boomers. But if you look at the people that, for example, told my friend that his problems weren't real because he was a gay man and not a normal person, right? If you look, those people were eventually were previously children, and children tend to have a different approach to things than adults because adults make decisions that they really try to stick to, and they try to force their world to be the way that they've decided it's going to be. Actually, sometimes much more often than children will. So I think what Tim's describing is some of those kids now are actually going to grow up to be those more conservative adults, and they may have more to backlash against as society's becoming less stigmatized and more open. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah. Yes.
And what were you saying about boomers?
Well, I mean, I just look at like boomers and how they were like a generation of change makers. You know, they were a generation allegedly, yeah. But I mean, they were, you know, out protesting Vietnam, and I think boomers
and not
were
going.
What?
Nothing. You're right.
And like they were a part of the sexual revolution and the, you know, second wave feminism and so on. But like as parents, they got very conservative. Like as soon as they were having children and then started moving into the suburbs, they were then all of a sudden the yuppies who were all about capitalism and all about like maintaining status quo. And
you know what it was? It's Jesus. They got Jesus into their hearts.
Mm-hmm. They finally,
you know whose fault that
finally
was?
Accepted Jesus.
Tammy Faye Baker. That's who it was. Televangelism.
TFB.
May she rest in peace.
R.I.P. Lil bruh.
That's, I mean, truly.
I don't know.
I mean, because that's what it did with my parents, at least. You know, like they were like wild kids and stuff. You know, and I mean, they probably didn't have they definitely didn't have progressive views back then. So I think that's kind of just never left. But they got stricter whenever Jesus came around.
Right.
You just don't see tons of young people, really young people saying, look, I think you need to settle down. You need to read the Bible. You need to, you know what I mean? They're not, not a lot. There's always young people like this, but there's not tons of young people that are trying to create sort of a prohibition or a sort of a puritanical kind of focus, except for like the zealots, the real, I mean, you know, if they get scooped up in it. So like, but those people do eventually emerge when those people become adults. And so like,
well, and they have a lot of voting power already. The evangelists.
Oh yeah.
And those zealots that you're talking about, and they're only procreating more and more.
The quiver full. Alfred.
But how many more rainbows do we have to shove into their face until they get it?
Well, but here's the thing too: is like, I mean, how much of the narrative is not going to be Here's my lighter. How much of the narrative is not going to be transformed? And how much of it is going to cause more polarizing kind of, because there's two different futures. There's a future where all this stuff seems silly to argue about because we've worked past it. And there's also a future where half of us don't want to work past it. And they, you know.
So, okay, I have something that I want to say about that actually, is that kind of what's helped me continue with my life without feeling like unsafe, I guess, or that I need to like change everybody's mind. Is it's kind of like a 20-60-20. Like some people, like there's 20% of people that are always going to agree with it, always going to support you no matter what. There's 20% of people that you're not going to be able to change their mind. They're going to do whatever they want. And then there's the 60% in the middle, and those are the people that you want to spend your time, you know, like teaching and, you know, giving I don't know, representation to and educating.
Educating,
informing in order to help them understand, you know, what we're going through and everything, and to be an ally. So that's kind of like what I'm thinking about it, whether those statistics are not true, but it's just how I'm viewing it.
that's the but the bell curve is that like it's probably even smaller numbers than that. It's probably 595. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And so and not necessarily trying to disillude or persuade or lie to anybody, but just trying to expose them to the whole
but it's
picture.
I guess I should say there's 60% of people who are willing to
open
challenge
to
themselves,
being reasonable and
yes.
maybe listening to what you need from society, and then
yeah.
I could see that totally. That's an interesting way of looking at it.
This is something that I thought was interesting that I thought about when you were saying that, and Tim, this is something I think about with you a lot, is how do you still enjoy something that would exclude you if it could have previously?
So, well...
And that could be a family. That could be a single relationship with a single person. It could be a church. It could be, you know what I mean? It could be any size of thing. But like for example, there's things that my father and I are never going to agree on. And I still have to try to create experiences that are positive for that relationship while I have access to it. And so like I have to try to live with the stuff that I can't fix or go back and change, and live with the stuff that we're never going to agree on, but then still try to enjoy what's left in spite of. Like, how does that work for you?
Me?
Yeah.
I think that's a really interesting question because that's how
job.
I feel about the church. Like, growing up Catholic is so interesting and can be so damaging. And I know that, and I like, not in general, but for gay people, and I know that I have like lasting scars in some ways, not from my family, but from, I think from the educational piece, I think from working in a Catholic environment, I think also perhaps like the ways that people would talk about, like media representation of how the Catholic Church, or archdiocese or whatever, makes decisions on behalf of everybody else. And so that for me is an interesting question, because I've had to come to terms with that, like
Right.
that I'm never going to be able to be fully embraced by the church that I was raised in. And so like, why do I care? Because there are so many people who are like, they look at me like I'm a walking contradiction. Like, why do you say you're Catholic when like it's the institution that is so deeply affecting you? And it's partly, I think, because it's just easier to say.
Well, because culturally there's so much implied there.
There is, yeah. And I think that like my concept of God and faith is just easier to say when using the language of the Catholic Church, but it's unfortunate because it's also applied to the plethora of problems that come with that, that come with the globally known problems of the institution itself. And so I don't know if I'm answering your question, but like I've had to in some ways come to terms with like, yeah, I do consider myself someone who has faith, but I also, and yeah, maybe I do prescribe to a particular religious institution, but I'm first of all never going to shove that down anyone's throat because it's between them and what their own beliefs and value systems are. And also it's like I don't have to explain it to anybody because it's none of their damn business. It's all between me and myself and what I believe.
Lou.
Absolutely. I think so. Growing up and being so outwardly lesbian was something that I needed to do. Like I've always expressed myself as more masculine, and it hasn't always gone the best and everything. So I think by first of all putting myself out there and already trying to like break that mold in my own little community, it definitely wasn't, it was definitely had its like traumatizing moments for it, but how do you deal with going to places where you're normally might not be accepted? Okay, so let's take like a small town like sports bar or something.
Oh.
Like walking in there, like I just know I'm gonna be stared at, talked at. I don't know if you want to call it disassociation or whatnot, but I don't look, and I don't acknowledge it. You know, I just keep going on with my night. You know, and does it bother me? Absolutely. But I think my journey has been
what
trying
you're
not
saying
to.
is if you stopped every time you could, because this happens to me a lot.
Yeah.
For slightly different reasons, probably, but that like if you stopped and addressed everybody that you knew was talking about you and pointing you out to somebody else, it would be exhausting. You get in fights everywhere you went. I mean,
exactly.
I've walked
So
into.
I've never thought of that. Although I did have that made me think of one time when I walked into a bar here in South City wearing like a kimono and a big hat and a like a necklace.
Hey, I can't find a kimono that fits me, so you got to help.
Oh, I can help you out.
But you're wearing a kimono and a big hat like I'm trying to do.
Yeah, and I literally walked in and this guy sitting at the bar goes, "Liberace's here," and I was like, "You're damn right," and then just kept walking, and then there was a moment with some other guy who said something like, that's gay or whatever, and then he saw me and was like, "Oh, I'm really sorry. Did I offend you?"
I'm
or
really
like
sorry
that?
because you're also obviously gay in that kimono.
And I was like,
hat.
"No, it's not a big deal. Just maybe you could stop saying stuff like that because it makes you look like an asshole."
Yeah.
And so,
Oh, that's good.
I mean, I don't know, like where that comes from for me personally. I think I get what you're saying about like not acknowledging it. I think I perhaps.
I mean, I'll put the work in if it needs to happen, but but oftentimes it's just too many people. It's like you're exhausted and you just want to go on with your fucking life. So can you believe that? Like, I know that this is gonna is that gonna be demonetizing?
What'd you say?
So I said the F word.
I said your tuck is cunt earlier, so
I said
okay,
bull crap.
Okay.
Tim said bull crap, so we're Lion's Choice.
Okay,
is definitely pulling the plug.
so where I'm at right now is that it's that 20-60-20 thing again, and I just continue like, okay, so literally like last week I went to go get some jeans tailored, and I went to the same person that tailored my suit for your wedding, and he is this absolutely old Greek man, and he did such a wonderful job, and he acted like I am not putting a suit on a woman. He just acted like it was just any other person. So I was like, oh, this guy's awesome. So I went back to him, and
maybe he thought you were a young boy.
You think he saw these titties and wasn't like,
he didn't want to draw attention. If a young boy had titties like that, he would be insecure about them.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Or
my neck is 2
know.
feet around. Apparently, I learned that at the tailor.
Wow,
good
for
Lord.
You.
So anyway, so I go back there. I'm like super happy to walk in, and then there's John, and then there's two people that look like maybe his friends or something that are also old as dirt. And I walk in, and the lady is sitting down, and she's looking at me like this, like what? Just walk through this heavenly.
What
place.
are you? Yeah.
I'm glad she didn't try to grab
what?
you. Because they'll do that.
No, she was too old to do that. And so she's giving me the stink face, and everybody stops talking. It's just dead silent. And I just go, I just want to get some jeans tailored, and nobody says a thing. They're all staring at me, and I'm like,
wow.
Oh, so I just want to get these jeans tailored. And then John, the old dude, comes up to me. He's like, I don't do that anymore. And I was like,
no way.
You don't tailor anymore? He's like, no, I don't. And then so I was like, okay, have a great day. And I like walked out. And then I thought about it. I was like, either he's actually closing it down because he's like retiring finally, or I was just a victim of discrimination.
Yeah.
I don't know which one it was. However, what I did do was I went on to Google. I went on to Google and I was like, oh, he said he doesn't do it. He doesn't do tailoring anymore. So I reported them permanently closed. So, they're closed.
Well, I'm sorry.
As far as
Did
Google's
they actually
concerned.
close?
No, I don't know.
Oh,
because
I don't know.
Google,
The door was open.
That's terrible.
The door was open, like they were airing the place out. Clothes were everywhere. It did not look like he was packing up. Like from what I could see, it was still in business.
Yeah, he was trying to get you out of there because his conservative friends were there. And is that what you're saying?
That I don't know. I don't want to take that imagery on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, right. Well, here's the thing too.
oh my
because I do
gosh.
this all the fucking time, where I always assume, one, that things are about me when they're not. And I
Yeah.
always also assume that they're going to be negative, right? I always assume not only are you mad, but you're mad at me, right? I do this, Lou, I do this to you all the time when we're hanging out in person, because you're not as unfiltered or as animated constantly as I am. So I assume if you're not laughing at me and I'm talking, that you're mad, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because that's how I know you. You usually emerge with laughter when I say something ridiculous. And so, you know what I mean? And so if you're not, I'm just going to assume that you're pissed off, right? And that's just totally me doing that. But so you don't want to assume that anything about that interaction had anything to do with you.
Right, but it's hard not to see the signs.
It's
also.
hard not to
But
go there.
yeah, and the worst part though, I think I've had that. I'm now realizing I have experienced that, and I think I block it out because, I don't want to assume that I'm the victim of anything, but I think I just recently had this with the job situation where, like, I started to question if I made all of this up, where like I was like, when I talked to a couple of very important people about my experiences, and one being like my therapist, I was led to be questioned in such a way where I thought, did I just make up feeling like I couldn't be myself? Is that what you're talking about? Like, not in terms of going to the tailor, but in terms of like, you walk away wondering like, okay, was I just discriminated against, or am I just like feeling that way because I'm, I could potentially be discriminated against because that's just a known thing, right?
Well, it's an unfortunate thing that we have to discuss, because the reason that we even feel that we might be discriminated against is because it's something that we've experienced before.
Right.
It's like,
or we've seen other people experience it before. It's sort of like when you constantly hear on the news about like, you could potentially, like, I mean, shit, for as long as we've been adolescents, the question of whether or not we would be able to get married has always been a question. And so it's kind of amazing that it happened in our lifetime. But even then it's like, okay, does that negate the fact that like I still feel in some ways like I can't be my full authentic self in this current situation, in this current environment? And is it me that's doing that, or is it the people around me, or what is it?
I think it could be a little bit of both. I think it could be learned behavior and the environment around you, because whenever that was going on and, gay marriage was passed, we were in a red state. And we saw people reacting negatively to it,
right,
instead of positively. And so like that also kind of adds on the fear. Like, I'm still not necessarily completely free,
right?
You know, like there's still so much more work to do.
I mean,
but also
I'm still scared. Yeah, I mean,
like, but again, like what I'm saying is that on the other side of that, it is a little bit of like having to learn how to not give a fuck,
right?
And that's where I'm at right now. Like, if I approach somebody and they look like they aren't going to like me, then I am so nice to them. I am so overly nice to them.
That's so interesting. I am the opposite. I'm mean and angry.
No, yeah, because because they could either be a part of that 20% that they'll never change, or a part of that 60% that if I'm super nice to them, that it could possibly change their thinking.
It could pull them your way as opposed to pushing them the other way.
If anyone looks at me a certain way, the thing I say to myself in my head is like, I am not the person that you're gonna fuck with right now. I am not that person. So don't look at me.
Jeffco, baby.
Don't look at me that way. And if you do, I'm gonna look at you back. And but I think that also comes from like, again, I feel like I can walk around and perhaps like maybe naively think that I'm not going to be as harassed as perhaps someone else, who's smaller or...
That's the thing. We're big motherfuckers.
Right.
Like if I was a rag doll.
Oh my God. We're back on the rag doll.
No, but I'm saying like I would get...
Living in a movie?
I think people would be meaner if I was like 5'2", 120 pounds. One, I'd be gorgeous.
Yeah.
Two,
You are gorgeous. What are you talking about?
I know, thanks. But I think I'd get messed with more. Like, people don't mess with me because I think they think I'm like a tough dude.
Totally. I mean, you walk like you might actually have a switchblade.
I have a butterfly knife.
Right.
Oh my God. I don't know. I don't think he walks like that. I think he walks like he's gonna come and steal your boy.
I'm gonna walk
Jake?
in there. Remember that time? Remember that time at that place where I tried to get a free beer by taking my shirt off?
Yeah. That
Did
was
you
the
get thrown
bastard just,
out?
like, dancing,
Or
like-
did you get free beer?
No, Lindsay got me a beer.
Yeah. He was dancing real good, so I got him one.
And this guy in like gym shorts was driving us around. I think we hijacked somebody's, like, they had been on a date with some guy. Oh God, that was good.
It was like they had just started dating and he was going to come pick her up and they were going to have a good night together. But she's like, all right, I'm going to bring my two friends with me. And one of them is a 6'1" Amazon man. And we're going to get into a small Fiat.
Yeah, we get in this Fiat. I forgot about this. Was after we saw Corey Feldman,
What
right?
is happening?
Yeah.
What are you
and
talking
you're in the
about?
front seat and you just lean over to him and you like shout something at him.
I'm in the
I don't know
front
what
seat
it
with this
was.
girl's date.
Yeah, because you there's no way you're going to get into that back seat.
What was the
of that
name of the
Fiat.
place
Did
we
you
were going?
know these people?
She
Missy
knew one
B's.
of them.
I worked with one of them with the girl.
Who was on a date with a guy?
No, we were all at the Corey Feldman show, and then
Yeah.
we needed a ride.
they had been
and
dating.
So she called this guy to pick her up, and we just said, "Hey, we'll go with you." And then we made them go to this gay bar with us.
What bar was it?
Yeah. Missy B's in Kansas City.
Missy B's.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was a very, very fun night.
So we're kind of winding down here. This has been so really great, and I think I've learned a lot. I've answered a lot of questions that I had. But what are we most looking forward to in the growth that we're making as a society, and the outward expression and sort of pride we want to express and continue to indulge in? What are we looking forward to the most, y'all?
I'm looking forward to more representation and visibility on queer and trans POC, because it is very important to keep them in the forefront.
Yeah.
And I really love where that is going, and I want to make sure that I'm, in line with that.
On the
So,
right side of history, as it were.
Yeah. So that's what I'm excited for.
Tim.
I don't know if it's like a looking forward to. I think that I'm just kind of hopeful that what this leads to is people really embracing these facets of other people's identities. And I'm, like, I always think, like, what the difference between, like, acceptance and embracing, it's like where everybody can celebrate each other, and, like, the thing that we like about each other are the things that make us so different, as opposed to, and I think that representation comes along with that. I think that seeing more visibly, which is what seeing is, but seeing more examples of LGBT people as excellent members of society, it not only will help future generations, but it will help, I think, in the healing of current generations who still have, I think, like, PTSD.
Yeah.
Which,
And there's a lot of people that aren't even as far along as we are.
right.
There's a lot of people that are still living
And
with
that's
a lot
what's
of doubt and
scary,
fear.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I think because on Netflix and Bravo, we've come a long way. It doesn't necessarily mean we've come a long way in small towns or even just I mean, like we were alluding to a moment ago, other groups have prejudice against other minority groups just
Right.
because you're gay doesn't mean that's the only thing people don't like about you, right? You could also be, or just because you're trans, or just because you're what have you, doesn't mean that you're not also struggling with other types of prejudice and also things that are like what's mutually exclusive therein. You may like you said, if you're in a minority group economically and racially or ethnically or theologically, and then also in your sexual orientation or identity, I mean, that's a lot of things stacking against you. You could be living in poverty with other people who are all experiencing the negative experiences you are because of all these other issues that are in common, and then they also have this homophobia on top of it that's going to draw you away from them or away from the church you grew up in or away from a business that you've previously enjoyed. So I'm looking forward to our kids not having that problem.
Yeah, absolutely. Or at least having less of it.
Less of it is probably a better goal.
Well, and it is a good thing to see like Gen Zers and fully embracing in a lot of ways these identifiers that are cards stacked against people, to be functioning as their full selves. And so even if it's like irritating in some ways to hear these, really little woke kids confront even our own generation of our problematic behavior, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's a good thing because it just means that we're progressing.
Yeah, and I think it's even kind of something we talked about a long time ago now, is just that I think I'm also looking forward to a time where it's just not as big of an issue. When I see younger people not necessarily being so proud and out and open about who they are, because of course I love that, because that's what I always wanted for myself, but even to the point where they don't think it's that important to tell you. Right. I don't have to tell you. I mean, what do you mean? Like I'm like, you shouldn't I'm a have minor.
To. It would be nice to not have to
on
come
TikTok.
out.
I don't have to disclose to you everything about my identity. Leave me alone. Like, I mean, I'm an actor on Stranger Things. Maybe the kind of people I'm sexually attracted to is none of your business. You know what I mean? And so I much prefer the idea of where it can be everyone's business if you want it to be. But
I hear what you're saying, because I feel like that's going back on what I said about,
because I'm all about telling people who I am and what I like, you know what I mean, and especially if they're interested. But I think a lot of people are not, and we just assume that everyone's going to be okay with disclosing all this stuff about them. When again, we don't ask straight people crazy specific details about their experiences or their preferences.
I think that's a really great point.
I think that's great. I think we're all doing
You're great.
I think we all need to go bait some butch.
Butch baiters.
We need to butch baiters.
Butch baiters.
Butch baiters. That's what we're gonna call the people that have the hoodies.
Oh, like your fans, yeah.
Yeah, like, you know what I mean? Instead
Butch
of
baiter. Yeah, it's
Deadheads or
Mariah Carey's Lambs and Gaga's Monsters. You've got Jacob V's
Mariah Carey calls her
Butch baiters.
fans lambs?
Yeah.
Like sheep?
Yes.
What?
I'm pretty sure.
Is that for real?
I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah, I think that it's real. I mean, lambs out to slaughter.
Lambs to the Mariah Carey slaughter.
Yeah, they're called lambs.
Great.
The Lamely is what Mariah likes.
The
to
Lamely.
Like the family, but the Lamely.
Guys, stay with me. I'm gonna wrap this up real quick. Guys, that's been a return episode of Jacob V Weekly. Pride Month. Summer is here. Patreon is coming in July. Hoodies are coming hopefully sooner than that. Look for that pre-order any day now. Follow us online at Jacob V Weekly on Instagram. Keep it deep.